My phone buzzed during the most important meeting of my career. Mom's voice pierced through the conference room as I accidentally answered on speaker. Gary, you need to wire $160,000 right now for Madison's wedding venue. The entire boardroom fell silent. 8 years ago, my parents refused to contribute one penny toward my college education, telling me I needed to learn independence. Now they expected me to bankroll my sister's extravagant fairy tale wedding without hesitation. The hypocrisy hit me like a freight train. I excused myself from the meeting, my face burning with embarrassment, as my coworkers exchanged bewildered glances. Walking to the parking garage, my mind raced back to those brutal high school years when I believed my parents' promises about helping with college. I worked 3 jobs simultaneously, stocking shelves at Peterson's Grocery from 5 to 9 every morning, cutting lawns for Henderson Landscaping on weekends, and delivering pizzas for Tony's until midnight on weekdays. My alarm clock screamed at 4:30 each morning, and I collapsed into bed well past 1 in the morning, homework scattered across my desk like confetti. Despite maintaining a 4.0 grade average and earning a full academic scholarship to State University, I still needed help with room board and living expenses. My parents, Harold and Patricia, lived comfortably in their 4-bedroom colonial house with the pristine garden and 2-car garage. Dad worked as a regional sales manager for a pharmaceutical company, pulling in $85,000 annually, while Mom taught elementary school, adding another $42,000 to their household income. They drove newer vehicles, took annual vacations to Florida, and never seemed to struggle financially. The memory of graduation day still stung like an open wound. I sat in that scorching auditorium wearing a cap and gown I'd purchased with pizza delivery tips, watching other families celebrate their children's achievements. My parents arrived late, grumbling about traffic, and barely acknowledged my valedictorian speech. That evening, when I approached them about the college financial aid gap of $18,000 for my freshman year, they delivered a crushing blow that shattered my world. Gary, your mother and I have decided you're becoming too dependent on us, Dad announced, adjusting his reading glasses while scanning a travel brochure. We've purchased a 30-foot Winnebago for cross-country adventures. You need to figure out college financing yourself. It'll build character and teach you real-world responsibility. The RV cost $43,000. They chose luxury camping over their son's education. College became a grueling endurance test that nearly broke me. I worked 40 hours weekly at the campus computer lab while carrying a full course load in software engineering. Ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches sustained me for months at a time. I slept in the library during breaks between classes and work shifts, using my backpack as a pillow. Other students complained about hangovers and failed exams while I calculated whether I could afford textbooks or groceries that week. The student loan debt accumulated relentlessly. $22,000 after freshman year, $36,000 after sophomore year, $45,000 after junior year. By graduation, I owed $52,000 in educational loans that would haunt my finances for the next decade. Every monthly payment of $673 reminded me of my parents' betrayal. Meanwhile, Madison lived like a princess in their house. 3 years younger than me, she received a weekly allowance for doing absolutely nothing. Mom and Dad paid her car insurance, cell phone bills, and credit card statements without question. She attended State University, studying psychology, living in the dormant towers, and eating at dining halls, all expenses covered by our generous parents. Summer breaks meant European trips to Paris, Rome, and Barcelona, funded by the same people who claimed poverty when I needed college assistance. Madison graduated debt-free and moved back home where she enjoyed free rent while working part-time as a counselor's assistant. She dated Tyler Brennan, whose father owned a regional bank and whose family lived in the wealthiest neighborhood in town. Tyler drove a BMW convertible and wore suits that cost more than my monthly salary. Now at 28, I had clawed my way to success through sheer determination. My software engineering degree landed me a position at TechFlow Solutions, a growing startup where I earned $96,000 annually. I rented a modest one-bedroom apartment downtown, drove a reliable Honda Civic, and slowly chipped away at my student loans while building savings for my future. This morning's phone call shattered my peaceful existence. Mom's voice carried that familiar, entitled tone I remembered from childhood. Madison needs the venue deposit immediately or they'll lose the booking. You're doing so well financially, and family should support family. After everything we did raising you, this is the least you can contribute. I gripped my phone tighter, standing beside my car in the underground garage. Mom, I'm still paying student loans. My monthly budget doesn't include $160,000 for anyone's wedding. Don't be selfish, Garry. Your sister only gets married once. This is her dream wedding, and you're being petty about ancient history. We raised you, fed you, and provided for you for 18 years. Show some gratitude. The conversation escalated when she revealed the most shocking detail yet. We already told the venue coordinator at Riverside Gardens that you'd handle the deposit. They're expecting your wire transfer by tomorrow afternoon. Madison picked out the most beautiful location overlooking the lake with gardens and a ballroom that holds 300 guests. My blood pressure spiked as the implications hit me. They'd used my name and reputation without permission, essentially committing me to a financial obligation that would devastate my carefully planned budget. The venue deposit alone represented nearly 2 years of my student loan payments. That evening, my doorbell rang at 7:15. I peered through the peephole to see my entire family clustered outside my apartment door like an intervention squad. Mom clutched a thick wedding planning binder, Dad carried a briefcase, Madison held a bouquet of fabric samples, and Tyler stood behind them wearing an expensive charcoal suit that probably cost more than my rent. We need to discuss this family situation face to face, Mom announced as I reluctantly opened the door. They filed into my small living room like conquering soldiers, immediately rearranging my furniture to accommodate their impromptu family meeting. Madison spread wedding magazines across my coffee table, while Tyler surveyed my modest apartment with obvious disdain. His eyes lingered on my second-hand furniture and discount store decorations, his expression suggesting he'd stepped into a homeless shelter. "Listen, Garry." Tyler began loosening his silk tie with practiced arrogance. "Madison deserves the wedding of her dreams. My family understands the importance of celebrating life's milestones properly. You should feel honored to contribute to such a significant family event." I studied Tyler's perfectly styled hair and manicured fingernails, wondering how someone only 2 years older than me could radiate such insufferable entitlement. His father's banking fortune had obviously shielded him from any real-world financial struggles. Tyler: "I appreciate your perspective, but $160,000 represents nearly 2 years of my gross income. That money would completely drain my emergency savings and force me to postpone major life goals like buying a house or starting my own family." Madison's eyes immediately welled with tears, her lower lip trembling like a child denied candy. "Garry, you're ruining everything. This is supposed to be the happiest time of my life, and you're destroying it with your selfishness. Do you remember when I helped you with your math homework in middle school? Do you remember when I covered for you when you came home late from parties?" Her emotional manipulation felt as transparent as cellophane. Those childhood memories she referenced were either completely fabricated or wildly exaggerated. Madison had never helped me with homework. She'd always been too busy with her own social activities to care about my academic struggles. Dad cleared his throat and opened his briefcase, retrieving a manila folder thick with documents. "Son, let me explain the financial reality here. This wedding represents an investment in family relationships and social connections. Tyler's family moves in influential circles that could benefit all of us professionally. He spread wedding expense sheets across my table like a financial presentation. The numbers made my head spin. 15,000 for flowers, 22,000 for catering, 18,000 for photography, 12,000 for the wedding dress, 8,000 for the bachelor party in Las Vegas. The list continued endlessly, each line item representing more money than most families spent on entire vacations. Madison and Tyler have planned every detail meticulously, Mom added, flipping through the binder pages. The venue deposit secures the date, but we also need funds for the orchestra, the wine selection, and the custom wedding favors. This is a once-in-a-lifetime celebration that requires proper investment. I calculated the total expenses quickly in my head. The complete wedding budget approached $300,000, an amount that could buy a decent house in most American cities. The venue deposit represented just the beginning of their financial demands. Look, I understand this wedding is important to Madison, but expecting me to contribute such a massive amount is unrealistic. You refused to help me with college, claiming I needed to learn financial independence. Why doesn't that same lesson apply to Madison's wedding expenses? Tyler stepped forward, his jaw clenched, with barely controlled anger. That's completely different, and you know it. College is an individual investment, but weddings bring families together. You're being vindictive about ancient history instead of celebrating your sister's happiness. The conversation spiraled into emotional manipulation territory as Madison sobbed dramatically, claiming I was jealous of her relationship and bitter about my own single status. Mom piled on guilt about family loyalty and blood being thicker than water. Dad threatened to reconsider my place in family gatherings and holiday celebrations. You have 48 hours to transfer the money, Dad declared, standing up and closing his briefcase with finality. After that, we'll know exactly where your priorities lie, and we'll adjust our family relationships accordingly. As they prepared to leave, Madison turned back with mascara streaming down her cheeks. I've already told Grandma Betty, Uncle Frank, and Cousin Susan that you're paying for the venue. Everyone's so proud of how successful you've become and how you're supporting family. Don't make me look like a liar, Garry. The apartment fell silent after they left, but their ultimatum hung in the air like smoke. I sat on my couch surrounded by scattered wedding magazines and expense sheets, realizing my family had already committed my reputation and finances without my consent. They'd created social pressure and public expectation based on complete lies. My phone buzzed with text messages throughout the evening. Cousin Susan congratulated me on my generosity. Uncle Frank expressed pride in my family loyalty. Grandma Betty sent a lengthy message about how wonderful it was to see siblings supporting each other. Each message felt like another weight added to the crushing pressure they'd manufactured. I lay awake that night staring at the ceiling and processing the evening's revelations. My family had transformed from people who claimed to love me into manipulative strangers willing to destroy my financial stability for their own selfish purposes. The 48-hour deadline ticked away like a time bomb, threatening to explode my carefully rebuilt life into pieces. My childhood friend Jake Rodriguez arrived at my apartment the next evening, carrying a bottle of bourbon and a concerned expression. We'd maintained our friendship through college and career changes, bonding over shared experiences of working-class backgrounds and financial struggles. Jake worked as an accountant at Morrison & Associates, handling personal finances for middle-class families throughout the county. I heard about the wedding situation through the grapevine, Jake said, settling into my recliner chair. My cousin Maria works at First National Bank, and she mentioned something disturbing about your parents' financial situation. I poured 2 glasses of bourbon, grateful for adult friendship after yesterday's family intervention. Jake had always been refreshingly honest, never sugarcoating difficult truths or manipulating conversations for personal gain. Maria handles loan applications and account reviews. Jake continued swirling his bourbon thoughtfully. Your parents applied for a home equity loan 6 months ago, claiming they needed money for home improvements. The application revealed some shocking financial information that I think you should know about. My stomach knotted as Jake retrieved a manila envelope from his briefcase. I shouldn't be sharing this information, but Maria's worried about potential fraud involving your name. Harold and Patricia are drowning in credit card debt totaling $67,000. Their mortgage is 3 months behind, and they've received foreclosure warnings from Riverside Savings. The documents Jake showed me painted a devastating picture of financial irresponsibility. Credit cards from 8 different companies, each carrying maximum balances with minimum payments past due. Personal loans from predatory lenders charging 26% interest rates. Store credit accounts for luxury furniture, jewelry, and electronics they couldn't afford. The home equity loan application was denied because their debt-to-income ratio exceeded acceptable limits, Jake explained. But here's the really concerning part. They listed you as a co-applicant and guarantor on several recent loan applications. Your signature appears on documents you never signed. My hands trembled as I examined photocopies of loan paperwork bearing my forged signature. The handwriting looked similar enough to fool casual inspection, but I recognized subtle differences in letter formation and pen pressure. My parents had been using my creditworthiness to secure financing for their lifestyle maintenance. "There's more," Jake said grimly. "Madison has been using credit cards under your parents' names to fund extensive shopping sprees, designer clothing purchases, expensive restaurant bills, and luxury hotel stays for weekend getaways with Tyler. She's accumulated an additional $23,000 in unauthorized charges over the past year." The bourbon burned my throat as I processed this information. My family's financial house of cards was collapsing, and they expected me to provide the foundation that would prevent their complete destruction. The wedding venue deposit wasn't about Madison's happiness. It was about buying time before creditors started seizing assets. Jake pulled out his smartphone and showed me social media posts from Tyler's Instagram account. "I did some research on Madison's fiancé after you mentioned him yesterday. His father, Brandon Brennan, was arrested 2 weeks ago by federal agents for embezzling $4 million from Merchants National Bank. The family's assets have been frozen pending investigation." The Instagram photos told a story of desperate denial. Tyler continued posting pictures of expensive dinners, luxury car rides, and designer clothing despite his family's legal catastrophe. Recent posts showed him and Madison at 5-star restaurants and exclusive nightclubs burning through money they didn't have while federal investigators closed in. Madison and Tyler are planning to use the wedding as cover for their financial disasters, Jake concluded. "I suspect they intend to collect cash gifts from wedding guests and disappear during the honeymoon. Tyler's been researching countries without extradition treaties, claiming it's for exotic vacation planning." My phone rang, interrupting our conversation. The caller ID showed my office number, which seemed strange for a Saturday evening. I answered to hear my boss, Richard Daniels, speaking in an urgent tone. "Garry, I'm sorry to call you at home, but I received a disturbing phone call from someone claiming to be your sister. She demanded I confirm your salary and employment status, saying she needed the information for a family emergency loan application. I wanted to verify this request with you directly." My blood pressure spiked as I realized Madison was attempting to use my employment information for fraudulent purposes. "Richard, I never authorized anyone to contact you about my personal finances. Madison has no legitimate reason to access my employment information." "I suspected something wasn't right," Richard replied. "She became belligerent when I refused to provide confidential information, claiming you'd already authorized the disclosure. She mentioned specific details about your work projects and performance reviews that seemed inappropriate for a family member to know." After ending the call with Richard, I slumped back into my chair, overwhelmed by the scope of my family's deception. They weren't just demanding money for a wedding. They were systematically using my identity and reputation to facilitate financial fraud. Every conversation, every guilt trip, every emotional manipulation was part of a calculated scheme to extract money from my hard-earned savings. Jake poured another round of bourbon and leaned forward with serious expression. Garry, you need to protect yourself legally. Tomorrow morning, we're going to my office to document everything. Maria can provide copies of the fraudulent loan applications and will contact the police about identity theft. This situation has moved far beyond family drama into criminal territory. As if summoned by our conversation, my apartment buzzer rang insistently. The security camera monitor showed Madison standing outside the building entrance, pressing the buzzer repeatedly while speaking animatedly into her cell phone. Her agitation was visible even through the grainy black and white security feed. She's been circling the building for 20 minutes, I told Jake, watching Madison pace back and forth outside. I think she knows her schemes are unraveling. My phone exploded with text messages from Madison, each more desperate than the last. I know you're home. We need to talk immediately. Tyler's family situation isn't what we thought. The wedding venue needs confirmation by Monday morning, or we lose the deposit completely. You're the only one who can save this situation. Jake finished his bourbon and stood up with grim determination. Don't answer that door. Tomorrow we start fighting back properly. Your family has crossed legal lines and it's time for consequences. But tonight we plan your counterattack carefully and professionally. The buzzer continued ringing as Madison's desperation escalated outside my building. Through the security monitor, I watched my sister transform from entitled princess into panicked criminal, realizing her elaborate schemes were crumbling around her. The war for my financial independence was about to begin in earnest. Monday morning arrived with the sharp clarity of a courtroom judgment. Jake and I sat in the law offices of Hartwell and Associates, consulting with attorney Sarah Peterson about my legal options. Sarah specialized in identity theft and family financial fraud. Her conference room walls decorated with commendations from various law enforcement agencies. Based on the documentation you've provided, your parents have committed multiple federal crimes, Sarah explained, reviewing the forged loan applications spread across her mahogany desk. Identity theft, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial fraud carry substantial penalties, including prison time and massive restitution requirements. I studied Sarah's credentials displayed behind her chair, noting her Harvard law degree and 15 years of experience prosecuting white-collar crime. Her confidence reassured me that my situation wasn't hopeless, despite feeling overwhelmed by my family's betrayal. The first step involves securing your credit and financial accounts, Sarah continued. We'll place fraud alerts with all 3 credit bureaus, notify your bank about potential unauthorized access attempts, and file police reports documenting the identity theft. Your parents' use of your name on loan applications constitutes serious criminal activity. Jake provided Maria's bank documentation showing the full scope of my parents' financial deception. The evidence painted a picture of systematic fraud involving multiple institutions and falsified information across dozens of applications. My forged signature appeared on documents totaling over $120,000 in attempted loans. Madison's breaking and entering incident last night escalated this situation into immediate legal territory. Sarah noted, reviewing the police report I'd filed after discovering my apartment had been burglarized while I was meeting with Jake. Security camera footage shows her using a spare key she obviously stole during yesterday's family confrontation. The apartment break-in had been discovered when I returned home Sunday evening, to find my desk drawers ransacked and my personal documents scattered across the floor. Madison had obviously searched for banking information, social security numbers, and anything she could use to authorize financial transactions without my consent. Missing items included my passport, birth certificate, backup credit cards, and a folder containing tax returns from the past 3 years. The stolen documents provided Madison with everything necessary to forge my authorization for the wedding venue payment and additional fraudulent transactions. The security footage is damning evidence. Sarah continued pulling up digital files on her laptop computer. Madison can be clearly identified entering and exiting your apartment building. The timestamp shows she remained inside for 47 minutes, giving her substantial time to photograph documents and search for financial information. My phone vibrated constantly throughout the meeting as family members attempted to contact me. Aunt Rebecca from Chicago left voice messages demanding explanations for my selfishness. Uncle Dennis from Portland sent angry text messages about family loyalty and moral obligations. Cousin Jennifer from Miami called repeatedly sobbing about Madison's emotional distress and my apparent cruelty. Your family's coordinated harassment campaign constitutes additional evidence of conspiracy, Sarah observed listening to several voicemail messages. They're systematically attempting to pressure you into compliance through emotional manipulation and social intimidation. Document everything and avoid responding to their communications. Jake's phone rang, interrupting our discussion. After a brief conversation, he turned to us with startling news. That was Maria from the bank. Tyler Brennan was arrested this morning by federal marshals at Madison's apartment. Apparently, his involvement in his father's embezzlement scheme was more extensive than initially reported. Sarah immediately pulled up federal court records on her computer, searching for details about Tyler's arrest. Brandon Brennan's embezzlement case has expanded to include multiple family members. Tyler allegedly helped launder stolen money through fake investment accounts and overseas transfers. The FBI has been monitoring his activities for months. The implications hit me like a physical blow. Madison had been dating a federal criminal who was actively under FBI surveillance. Their wedding plans were part of an escape strategy designed to avoid prosecution and flee the country with stolen money. My parents had unknowingly become accomplices in a federal money laundering operation. This changes everything. Sarah declared printing court documents and news articles about the Brennan family investigation. Madison and your parents are potentially facing federal charges as co-conspirators. Your refusal to provide wedding funding may have inadvertently prevented them from successfully fleeing prosecution. My work phone rang with an urgent call from my boss, Richard. Garry, FBI agents are here requesting information about your family connections to Tyler Brennan. They want to interview you as a potential witness in a federal fraud investigation. Can you come to the office immediately? The conference room fell silent as we processed this development. My family's wedding fraud scheme had intersected with a federal criminal investigation, transforming my personal drama into a national security matter. The stakes had escalated far beyond family relationships into territory involving federal prosecutors and potential prison sentences. We need to coordinate with the FBI investigation while protecting your interests, Sarah advised, gathering her legal files and preparing for immediate action. Your cooperation with federal agents could provide valuable evidence while demonstrating your complete separation from your family's criminal activities. Jake collected the bank documentation and fraud evidence we'd assembled, organizing everything for presentation to federal investigators. This situation has moved completely beyond family disputes. Madison and your parents are facing potential decades in federal prison. As we prepared to leave for the FBI interview, my phone buzzed with a final text message from Madison. Garry, Tyler's been arrested and everything's falling apart. I need your help more than ever. Please don't abandon your sister when our whole world is crashing down. Meet me at Riverside Park at 5 o'clock so we can figure this out together. Sarah read the message and shook her head grimly. That sounds like a desperate attempt to manipulate you into a compromising situation. Madison's facing federal charges, and she might try anything to escape accountability. Don't respond to that message, and don't meet her anywhere without legal supervision. The drive to FBI headquarters felt surreal. My modest Honda Civic following Sarah's luxury sedan through downtown traffic toward a building I'd never imagined entering. My family's greed and desperation had dragged me into the center of a federal investigation that could reshape all our lives forever. FBI agent Victoria Hayes led us through a maze of government corridors to a sterile interview room equipped with recording equipment and video cameras. Her 23 years of experience investigating financial crimes showed in her methodical approach and penetrating questions about my family's recent behavior patterns. Mr. Thompson, your cooperation in this investigation could provide crucial evidence about the Brennan money laundering operation. Agent Hayes explained reviewing thick files containing surveillance photos and financial records. Your sister Madison and her fiancé Tyler have been under federal observation for 6 months. The surveillance photos shocked me. Images of Madison and Tyler meeting with suspicious individuals at expensive restaurants, exchanging briefcases in parking garages, and visiting banks in multiple states. My sister had been living a completely different life than the innocent psychology graduate my parents believed her to be. Tyler Brennan used your sister as an unwitting accomplice to move stolen money through wedding vendor payments, Agent Hayes continued. The elaborate wedding planning provided cover for transferring embezzled funds to offshore accounts. Your refusal to provide venue funding disrupted their escape timeline. I provided Agent Hayes with copies of all fraudulent loan applications, documentation of identity theft attempts, and recordings of threatening phone calls from my family members. The evidence painted a comprehensive picture of systematic fraud extending far beyond the wedding venue deposit. Your parents, Harold and Patricia, appear to be unknowing participants in the money laundering scheme Agent Hayes assessed studying financial records Jake had provided. Their desperate financial situation made them vulnerable to manipulation by Madison and Tyler, who exploited their debt problems to facilitate criminal activities. The FBI investigation revealed shocking details about Tyler's background that completely contradicted his wealthy banker's son persona. His father's embezzlement had been ongoing for 3 years, with Tyler actively participating in sophisticated money laundering operations across 6 states. The family's apparent wealth was built entirely on stolen funds. Madison became romantically involved with Tyler specifically to gain access to legitimate financial channels, Agent Hayes explained. Her psychology degree provided insights into manipulation tactics they used to recruit unwitting accomplices, like your parents. The wedding venue deposit was intended as the final large-scale transfer before international flight. My phone rang constantly throughout the interview as family members and friends attempted to contact me. Agent Hayes instructed me to forward all communications for federal review, as several messages contained evidence of ongoing criminal conspiracy and witness intimidation. Attorney Sarah Peterson worked closely with federal prosecutors to negotiate my witness protection status and immunity from prosecution. My complete separation from my family's criminal activities, combined with my cooperation in the investigation, established my innocence and valuable witness status. The media attention surrounding this case will likely clear your reputation professionally and personally, Sarah advised during a brief recess. Federal prosecutors are preparing public statements, emphasizing your role in exposing the money laundering operation through your refusal to participate in fraudulent wedding funding. Jake coordinated with bank investigators to secure my financial accounts and repair credit damage caused by my parents' identity theft activities. The fraudulent loan applications were officially voided, and protective measures were implemented to prevent future unauthorized use of my personal information. Your employer, TechFlow Solutions, has been very supportive throughout this investigation, Jake reported. Richard Daniels spoke with federal agents and confirmed your exemplary character and complete separation from any suspicious financial activities. The company legal department is prepared to provide character references if needed. Agent Hayes returned with updates about Madison's arrest and Tyler's federal detention status. Madison was arrested this morning attempting to withdraw large amounts of cash from multiple bank accounts using forged authorization documents. She's being held without bail pending federal conspiracy charges. The arrest details painted a picture of complete desperation and criminal recklessness. Madison had attempted to forge my signature on withdrawal slips, tried to impersonate me over phone calls to financial institutions, and even presented fake identification documents claiming to be my legal representative. Tyler Brennan has agreed to cooperate with federal prosecutors in exchange for reduced sentences, Agent Hayes continued. His testimony reveals extensive details about the money laundering operation and confirms Madison's knowing participation in criminal conspiracy. Your parents may avoid prosecution if they continue cooperating fully. The federal investigation expanded beyond my immediate family to include extended relatives who had unknowingly participated in the money laundering scheme. Aunt Rebecca, Uncle Dennis, and several cousins had accepted expensive gifts and paid travel expenses funded by stolen money, though their lack of criminal intent protected them from prosecution. Your decision to refuse wedding funding and document your family's harassment likely prevented the successful completion of a $4 million money laundering operation, Agent Hayes concluded. Federal prosecutors are recommending commendations for your civic responsibility and courage in reporting family members to appropriate authorities. As the interview concluded, Sarah and Jake accompanied me to a press conference where federal prosecutors announced the arrests and explained the money laundering investigation. The public statement emphasized my complete innocence and valuable cooperation in exposing sophisticated financial crimes. Mr. Thompson's integrity and refusal to participate in suspicious financial activities helped federal agents uncover a complex money laundering operation. U.S. Attorney Michael Rodriguez announced to assembled media representatives, "His cooperation with this investigation demonstrates exemplary citizenship and moral courage. The press conference transformed me from suspected family accomplice to celebrated whistleblower overnight." Local news coverage emphasized my working-class background student loan struggles and refusal to compromise my principles despite intense family pressure. The narrative resonated with viewers who understood financial manipulation and family betrayal. The next morning brought vindication through multiple channels. Local newspaper headlines proclaimed, "Local software engineer exposes federal money laundering ring," while television news programs featured interviews with FBI agents praising my cooperation and civic responsibility. My phone buzzed constantly with supportive messages from friends, coworkers, and community members. TechFlow Solutions CEO Amanda Walsh called personally to express company support and offer a promotion with significant salary increase. "Garry, your integrity during this difficult situation reflects the values our company cherishes. We're promoting you to Senior Development Team Leader with a $32,000 annual raise effective immediately." The promotion provided financial security that rendered my family's manipulation attempts completely irrelevant. My new salary of $128,000 annually, combined with rapid student loan payoff plans, positioned me for genuine financial independence within 2 years. Judge Patricia Morrison presided over Madison's federal arraignment hearing, where prosecutors outlined charges including conspiracy to commit money laundering, identity theft, wire fraud, and obstruction of justice. Madison appeared in orange jail clothing, her previous princess demeanor replaced by genuine terror as she faced potential 25-year prison sentences. The defendant participated willingly in sophisticated financial crimes spanning multiple states and involving millions of dollars in stolen funds, federal prosecutor David Chen announced during the hearing. Evidence includes recorded conversations, surveillance footage, and documented attempts to forge her brother's authorization for fraudulent transactions. Tyler Brennan's cooperation with federal prosecutors provided damning testimony against Madison and detailed evidence of their criminal partnership. His willingness to accept reduced sentences in exchange for full confession exposed the complete scope of their money laundering operation and international escape plans. Mr. Brennan has provided investigators with offshore bank account numbers, contact information for international money transfer services, and detailed plans for permanent relocation to countries without extradition treaties. Prosecutor Chen continued. The defendants viewed the wedding as cover for completing their criminal enterprise and fleeing prosecution. My parents Harold and Patricia received probation sentences and restitution requirements after their cooperation convinced federal prosecutors of their unwitting participation. Their financial irresponsibility had made them vulnerable to manipulation, but their lack of criminal intent protected them from lengthy prison terms. Harold and Patricia Thompson were exploited by sophisticated criminals who manipulated their financial desperation. Judge Morrison acknowledged during their sentencing hearing. However, their cooperation with federal investigators and genuine remorse demonstrate their commitment to making amends for their unwitting participation. The restitution requirements forced my parents to sell their house vehicles and luxury possessions to repay victims of the money laundering scheme. They moved into a modest apartment and accepted supervised employment to ensure their monthly payments toward the $4 million restitution total. Extended family members who had participated in the harassment campaign began contacting me with genuine apologies after learning the truth about Madison and Tyler's criminal activities. Aunt Rebecca flew from Chicago to apologize personally and express shame about her role in pressuring me to fund criminal enterprises. Garry. I'm horrified that we were manipulated into supporting money laundering without realizing it. Aunt Rebecca confessed during our emotional conversation at a downtown coffee shop. Madison convinced us you were being selfish and petty, but you were actually protecting everyone from federal prosecution. Uncle Dennis' cousin Jennifer and other family members sent lengthy letters apologizing for their harassment and expressing admiration for my moral courage. The family relationship slowly began healing as relatives understood the true nature of the situation and my principled refusal to participate in criminal activities. Wedding vendors who had contracted with Madison and Tyler received federal compensation for their losses, while guests who had purchased expensive gifts were refunded through the federal restitution program. The elaborate wedding plans dissolved completely as both bride and groom faced decades in federal prison. Local media coverage attracted attention from national news networks, with CNN and NBC featuring my story as an example of family financial manipulation and the importance of reporting suspicious activities to appropriate authorities. The interviews provided platform for educating viewers about identity theft prevention and recognizing money laundering schemes. Mr. Thompson's willingness to report family members to federal authorities demonstrates that moral integrity transcends blood relationships. CNN legal analyst Jennifer Martinez observed during a televised discussion. His actions likely prevented completion of a sophisticated international money laundering operation. Professional opportunities multiplied as technology companies across the region contacted me about executive positions and consulting opportunities. My reputation for integrity and principled decision-making became valuable assets in an industry where ethical leadership was increasingly important. The federal investigation concluded with Madison accepting a plea agreement requiring 15-year prison sentence plus full restitution payments. Tyler received 22-year federal sentence due to his leadership role in the money laundering operation and his family's extensive criminal history. The defendants' crimes affected hundreds of innocent victims and undermined public trust in financial institutions, Judge Morrison declared during final sentencing. However, the investigation also demonstrated that moral courage and civic responsibility can overcome family pressure and expose sophisticated criminal enterprises. 2 years after the federal investigation concluded, I stood on the balcony of my new downtown penthouse apartment, watching sunrise paint the city skyline in shades of gold and amber. The intervening months had transformed every aspect of my life through a combination of professional success, personal growth, and genuinely healthy family relationships built on mutual respect rather than financial manipulation. TechFlow Solutions had promoted me twice more, recognizing my leadership abilities and ethical decision-making skills that attracted major corporate clients seeking trustworthy technology partners. My current salary of $175,000 annually provided comfortable living, while accelerating my student loan payoff schedule by 4 years ahead of original projections. Madison served her 15-year federal sentence at minimum security facility in Pennsylvania, where she participated in educational programs and counseling sessions designed to address the psychological factors that led to her criminal behavior. Our correspondence began tentatively after her first year of incarceration, when she sent a handwritten letter accepting full responsibility for her actions. Garry. I spent months blaming everyone except myself for the choices I made, Madison wrote in her most recent letter. Prison counseling helped me understand that I became addicted to luxury and status symbols that I couldn't afford honestly. Tyler didn't force me to participate in money laundering. I chose criminal shortcuts instead of building genuine success through hard work like you did. Her transformation appeared authentic, based on our supervised video calls and reports from prison counselors. Madison completed her psychology degree through correspondence courses and volunteered in prison literacy programs, teaching reading skills to fellow inmates who lacked basic educational foundations. Tyler remained in federal custody at maximum security facility in Colorado, his cooperation with ongoing financial crime investigations earning modest sentence reductions. His father, Brandon, received a 38-year sentence for the original embezzlement scheme that had triggered the entire criminal enterprise. My parents, Harold and Patricia, completed their probation requirements successfully while rebuilding their lives on foundations of honesty and realistic financial planning. Their modest apartment near downtown reflected their acceptance of lifestyle changes necessary for genuine financial stability rather than debt-fueled luxury consumption. Son, we owe you apologies that extend far beyond the wedding situation. Dad acknowledged during our monthly dinner together at Romano's Italian restaurant. We failed you as parents by refusing college support, and we nearly destroyed your future through our financial irresponsibility. Your strength and integrity saved our entire family from complete destruction. Our family dinners became monthly traditions where we discussed genuine topics like career goals, personal growth, and meaningful relationships rather than money status symbols or social impressions. The conversations felt authentic for the first time in decades, built on mutual respect rather than manipulation and guilt. Mom returned to teaching elementary school after completing financial literacy courses required by her probation agreement. Her students' enthusiasm reminded her of education's intrinsic value beyond economic considerations, helping her rediscover purpose that didn't depend on material accumulation. Garry, watching you stand up to our pressure and manipulation, taught me more about parental responsibility than 30 years of child-rearing experience, Mom admitted during one of our heart-to-heart conversations. You demonstrated the moral courage and independence we should have taught you, instead of trying to exploit those same qualities for our selfish purposes. Professional recognition continued expanding through speaking engagements at financial literacy conferences, where I shared lessons about recognizing family manipulation and protecting personal finances from emotional pressure. The presentations attracted audiences of young professionals dealing with similar family dynamics involving money and guilt. Family relationships built on financial obligation rather than mutual respect are fundamentally unhealthy. I explained during a presentation at State University's business school. Genuine love doesn't demand financial sacrifice that compromises your future stability and independence. Sometimes protecting yourself from family manipulation represents the most loving action possible. The speaking engagements introduced me to Dr. Angela Martinez, a financial psychologist who specialized in family money dynamics and relationship counseling. Our professional collaboration evolved into personal friendship, then romantic partnership built on shared values of integrity, independence, and mutual support. Angela's research into family financial manipulation provided academic framework for understanding the psychological tactics my parents and Madison had employed. Her insights helped me process childhood experiences and develop healthier relationship patterns based on honest communication rather than guilt and obligation. Your refusal to enable your family's financial dysfunction created space for authentic healing and growth. Angela observed during one of our evening walks along the riverfront. Enabling destructive behavior often feels like love, but genuine care sometimes requires setting boundaries that force people to confront their problems. Our engagement 6 months ago represented culmination of relationship growth built on principles I'd learned through surviving my family's manipulation. Angela and I planned our wedding based on genuine celebration rather than status display with a modest budget that reflected our shared values of financial responsibility and authentic happiness. Extended family relationships had healed completely as relatives understood the complete scope of Madison and Tyler's criminal activities. Holiday gatherings became enjoyable celebrations focused on spending quality time together rather than comparing financial achievements or social status. Cousin Jennifer, who had initially participated in the harassment campaign, became one of my strongest supporters after learning how close her own family had come to unwitting participation in federal crimes. Her experience motivated her to pursue law school with specialization in financial crime prevention. Your courage in reporting family members to federal authorities saved all of us from potential prosecution, Jennifer told me during last Christmas gathering. Madison and Tyler were preparing to implicate extended family members as knowing accomplices if their escape plan had failed. Your refusal to participate protected everyone. The financial restitution program had compensated all victims of the money laundering scheme, while federal investigators continued pursuing international money transfers and offshore accounts connected to the Brennan family criminal enterprise. My cooperation remained valuable for ongoing prosecutions across multiple jurisdictions. Community impact extended through mentorship programs where I worked with young adults navigating family pressure about money, career choices, and personal boundaries. The experiences provided fulfilling purpose beyond professional success, helping others develop the independence and self-respect that protected against manipulation. Mr. Thompson's story demonstrates that moral courage often requires standing alone against family pressure, observed Dr. Robert Chen, director of the Community Financial Literacy Program. His willingness to prioritize integrity over approval probably saved his family from complete destruction while protecting his own future. As I prepared for work on this beautiful Monday morning, my reflection in the bathroom mirror showed someone completely different from the confused and pressured young man who had received that shocking phone call 2 years ago. The experience had taught me that genuine love respects boundaries. Authentic family relationships don't depend on financial obligation, and sometimes saving yourself represents the only way to save everyone else. The monthly payment toward my student loans had decreased to $312, with complete payoff scheduled for next spring. The financial independence I'd fought so hard to achieve was becoming reality through consistent work and principled decision-making rather than family manipulation or criminal shortcuts. Angela emerged from the bedroom wearing her favorite blue dress, ready for another day at the university, where her research into family financial dynamics helped other families recognize and overcome destructive money relationships. Our partnership represented everything my parents' marriage had lacked: mutual respect, honest communication, and shared values that strengthened rather than exploited each other. "Ready for breakfast?" she asked, wrapping her arms around me in the genuine affection that still amazed me after experiencing family relationships based on manipulation and guilt. The morning news featured updates about federal prosecutions connected to the Brennan money laundering investigation, including successful convictions of international accomplices and recovery of additional stolen funds. My cooperation had contributed to justice for hundreds of victims while demonstrating the importance of reporting suspicious activities regardless of family pressure. My phone buzzed with a text message from Madison, now in her 3rd year of federal incarceration. Gary, my psychology counselor, says I'm ready for family therapy sessions if you're willing to participate. I understand completely if you're not interested, but I'd like the chance to apologize properly and learn how to be a real sister instead of a manipulative stranger. Either way, I'm proud of the man you've become despite our family's failures. The message represented genuine progress from someone accepting responsibility for her choices and working toward authentic redemption. Whether family therapy would prove beneficial remained uncertain, but Madison's transformation appeared sincere based on consistent evidence over multiple years. Before leaving for work, I checked my investment portfolio and savings account balances, marveling at financial stability achieved through patience, hard work, and refusal to compromise my principles. The emergency fund that would have been depleted by Madison's wedding demand had grown to cover 8 months of expenses, providing security that money extracted through manipulation could never match. The lesson I'd learned through surviving my family's financial manipulation extended far beyond personal finances into every aspect of adult relationships. Genuine love creates freedom rather than obligation. Authentic family connections strengthen individual growth rather than demanding sacrifice. Moral courage sometimes requires standing alone until others find their own strength to choose integrity over convenience. Walking to my car in the penthouse parking garage, I passed the modest Honda Civic that had served me faithfully through the most difficult period of my life. The reliable transportation represented values of practicality and financial responsibility that had protected me from manipulation and enabled genuine independence. The morning commute to TechFlow Solutions took me past the courthouse where Madison's federal trial had concluded, the apartment building where my parents now lived modestly within their means, and the community center where I volunteered teaching financial literacy to young adults. Each landmark reminded me of the journey from victimization to empowerment. Today marked exactly 2 years since that shocking phone call had disrupted my peaceful existence with demands for wedding funding. The anniversary provided opportunity for reflection about growth healing and the satisfaction that comes from choosing integrity despite intense pressure to compromise values for family approval. Standing up to family manipulation isn't easy, but it's sometimes the most loving action possible. When we enable destructive behavior, we prevent growth and healing. When we set boundaries based on our values, we create space for authentic relationships built on mutual respect rather than financial obligation. Have you ever faced family pressure to compromise your financial boundaries for someone else's dreams? How did you handle the guilt and manipulation when relatives demanded financial sacrifice you couldn't afford? I'd love to hear your experiences with family money dynamics in the comments below. Your stories might help others navigate similar situations with courage and integrity. If this story resonated with your experience or helped you understand family financial manipulation, please hit the like button to support content that promotes healthy boundaries and financial independence. Subscribe to this channel for more true stories about overcoming family manipulation and building authentic relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation. Share this video with friends or family members who might benefit from understanding that genuine love doesn't demand financial sacrifice that compromises your future. Sometimes protecting yourself from manipulation represents the most caring action for everyone involved. Thank you for listening to my story and supporting content that encourages moral courage even when standing alone feels impossible. Remember that your integrity matters more than temporary approval, and authentic relationships survive honest boundaries, while manipulative connections crumble when you refuse to be exploited. May you find the strength to prioritize your values over pressure, your future over guilt, and your authentic self over others' expectations. Sometimes saving yourself provides the only path to saving everyone else.